Today we're starting a new chapter on Jewish history. We talk about Moroccan Jews. It's going to be a short segment, Be'ezrat Hashem. Before we go on, if you have any questions, you can reach us at rabbigaon@gmail.com. If you would like to check our website, it's yeshiva.etzion.com. And we have a PayPal account if you want to help us. That will be terrific. If not, in any case, we would like to hear from you, and we love to hear your feedback, and your support is really, really appreciated. So the Jews of Morocco. Jews of Morocco was maybe the biggest Jewish community in the Muslim world. Very interesting history to that community. According to some archaeological, there's a lot of controversy about it. Some people say it was from the time of Shlomo HaMelech and so on and so forth. But they said that the Jews were probably already settled in from the 2nd century. They're already settled down there. At the ancient time, Jews settled down mainly around the shores of northern Africa and western Africa, and they, like anybody else, almost their main job was trade. They were trading. It was a great place to be in, very cosmopolitan, people coming up and going, trade center. It's always a place where Jews have flourished. At the beginning of the 8th century, Morocco became Muslim. At the time, there were a lot of pagans there, and paganism was a big thing. You still see some pagan rituals among the Tuareg nations, the tribes of the Sahara over there. You know, those guys who wear the blue turban. Very interesting folks that are right now very Muslim, but there's a lot of paganism involved there. As much as there is paganism involved or weaved into the life of the Bedouins. There are a lot of pagan rituals within the Bedouins themselves. The Berbers were the tribes that inhabit northern Africa, and especially Morocco, were all pagans. And believed in, that's what usually happens when you live in the desert for too long. It's something that is common to all the people in the desert. Desert is a unique place to live in, where there's great emptiness, so-called, and the quiet that the desert gives you. Make a man realize different things. Make you different. There's a lot of, maybe it's a topic for research, anthropological research or whatever, to see if there are any common beliefs among desert tribal nations of the world, and so on and so forth. I'm sure you can find more than a handful of similarities in terms of beliefs and so on and so forth. It's just very interesting. Anyway, so in the beginning of the 8th century, Morocco became Muslim. And under the ruling of the Muslims over Morocco, the Jews of Morocco had experienced a great cultural and economic flourishing, and also they had periods of great persecution. So it was never stable. It was those ups and downs. Usually when the nations were more zealous in their belief, the Jews suffered. When the nations that the Jews were at were more willing to get involved with culture and trade and so on and so forth, the Jews usually benefited from that. The relationship to the Jews, or the way the Jews were treated, was always changing from one ruler to another. One ruler was good, the other ruler was bad. And, I think that the dynasty of the current kings of Morocco is a unique form, because the grandfather was good to the Jews, the father was good for the Jews, and the current king is also a Jew lover, to a certain extent, of course. So that's quite unique, because usually new ruler brought with him new treatments. After this is just an introduction. After the expulsion from Spain, there was a little bit of unstable situation over there. Why? Because thousands of Jews, call them refugees, came to Morocco, and it was, of course, a very forced the communities to deal with such mass migration into them. However, a lot of them also helped in terms of foreign relations with the tribes there, because they had experience. They were well trained in Spain. Trade, they were very much inside. They were big diplomats, and a lot of them worked for the kingdom, worked for the king itself. After Morocco became a colony of France in 1912, most of the Jews enjoyed a more stable situation there. The situation stabilized itself. The French opened their umbrella over and allows the Jews to flourish furthermore. Throughout the generations, Morocco Jewry was a center that flourished with a lot of culture aspects to it as well. And we'll deal later on with the Moroccan Jews, the way they are being portrayed today in Israel and why, but that's further down the road. But this is just an introduction to the Moroccan Jews. Poetry, music, literature, very interesting, the infiltration of Berber culture into Jewish life, and in return, how much the Jews contribute into the Moroccan Berber culture as well. The interaction between musicians, as they were Jewish musician with not Jewish musician. To a certain extent, some of the Moroccan Jews are still missed today by the Moroccan non-Jews, Muslims, who came in contact with them, and it was a great loss. It was a great loss to the country. Without saying, tremendous center for Torah as well, in areas, of course, that allow that. And for example, another boost for the community was the how should I say it? The infusion of Spanish culture and European culture into the Jewish life there really had contributed even further after the expulsion in areas of like music, language, halacha. It really gave them that introduction, the infusion of Jews from Spain to Morocco really gave it a unbelievable boost, and the culture, it took a completely different turn. However, there were times in which those cultures clashed, when we had the old establishment, the people from Spain coming in, and then the Jews that later on expanded further into the Atlas Mountains, they were less educated. They created almost a friction between those people. There were certain enclaves of Spanish Jews that stayed somewhat intact even until today, mainly in areas like Tangier and so on and so forth, but this we get later on. Moroccan Jews were always in great contact and desire to go to Eretz Israel, to the land. And some of them actually went to Israel. And that's another thing that we never talk about. We always talk about the pioneers that came from Russia, Anachnu, Chalutzim, the Chalutzim, they came from this. But nobody really talks about the contribution of Sephardic Jews coming into the land and settling down in the land because of the great desire to be in the homeland. That part is not only erased, was never even included in Jewish/Israeli history books. Completely neglected. You would think, if you look at modern Israeli textbooks, you would think that Eretz Israel was completely barren of any settlers whatsoever, any Jews whatsoever, and if it wasn't for this chalutzim that came from Russia with dress up like Cossacks and so on and so forth, there was nobody there, which is not the case. But they used to have what is called Yeshiva Yashan, the old establishment, and that was always there. They were always there. They were poor. There were different. I'm not saying that the Chalutzim did not contribute. However, you can say that they are the ones who came and settled the land. They weren't pioneers. Pioneers are those who went on the Oregon Trail. They went west on the Oregon Trail. These are the pioneers. But there were Jews there. You weren't pioneering. You give them titles in which they don't deserve. And we are here to teach you about those things. As we say, we are a weapon of mass instruction. A little bit of modern Zionism started to come up at the beginning of the 20th century, and together with that, the Aliyah from Morocco had started to pick up its numbers. Also, pogroms by the Muslims also encourage a lot of the Jews to pick the stuff and move to Israel. After the establishment of the State of Israel in the land of Israel, and until 1967, over 250,000 or 250,000 Jews went from Morocco to Israel. Some went to other countries, mainly Europe, to France. Some went to Spain. Some went to Portugal. Very few went to Portugal, but they went to Portugal. A lot of them went to France. Today, to the point that, especially after the Holocaust, throughout that time, as France separated more and more from Morocco and then gave up their colonialism and gave them freedom, more Jews migrated from Morocco to France. And some went to North America, but not in such great numbers. In the beginning of the 21st century, there were in Morocco something about 2,500 Jews left. That's it for today. This is just an introduction. Before we're going to get into that, we have to have some tools to work with. So, have a great day, and I'm looking forward to hear from you. Any remarks, questions, or just feedback. Have a great day.